Show. Okay, we're back and with our final video clip of infection. And we had just talked about infection having direct damage to cells, interferes with cellular metabolism. It renders a cell dysfunctional because of the accumulation of the pathogenic substance, whatever the garbage is thrown in the cell to hurt it, and then it starts to toxically reproduce. And so now we'll talk about, again, different terms. What does this mean? Pathogens are all our bugs, everything listed, parasites such as tapeworms, viruses such as AIDS, bacteria, Clostridium, Staph aureus, strep, there's zillions of them. What are they influenced by? Well, they're influenced by a property called infectivity, which is the ability of whatever we're talking about, the microbe, to invade and multiply in its host. What is the ability? Is it strong or is it weak? Pathogenicity is the ability of an agent to produce disease. Can it produce disease? Success depends on the speed of reproduction, the extent of tissue damage, and the production of toxins. How many were they able to form before we had that cascade of our white cells and lymphocytes that come in and try to get rid of it? And virulence is a word that we use a lot. It's basically, what that means is how potent it is, how strong it is. The strength of the pathogen. It's measured in number of micrograms of toxin required to kill the host. Measles has a very low virulence, where rabies has a very high virulence. Measles has a low potency of the pathogen, where rabies has a high, meaning most people don't die from measles. There's all kinds of deleterious effects you can get from measles, but most people don't die. You can die from rabies. It can actually affect your nervous system and you can die. So how strong is it? And then immunogenicity is the ability of the pathogens to induce an immune response from the body. Here's some more terms. Toxigenicity, ability to produce disease by production of a soluble toxin. Some diseases are just killed. It depends on where they are, if they're just in the serum, in the blood, if they're in body fluids, so forth and so on. Hemolysin, I've talked a little bit about that, destroys erythrocytes. And just look again at the words. Lysin means break up. Anything with HEM means blood. So erythrocytes are red cells. Leukocidin destroys leukocytes. Again, cidin means kill. And leuko are white. Destroys our leukocytes. Both are products of streptococci and staphylococci. So, meaning both the bacteria strep and the bacteria Staph aureus both have leukocidin and hemolysin. It's produced in their toxic production. So there you go. Portal of entry means how do they get in? Is a route in which the pathogen infects the host. Is it direct contact? Do they, is there something open like the film showed, open wound in the skin? Is it during surgery? That's why we give a lot of prophylactic antibiotics. Is it inhalation? Are we breathing in like the film we saw where he sneezed and then, it went everywhere? Ingestion or bite. Spread of infection is facilitated by the ability of these microbes to spread through the lymph and blood and into the tissue and organs where they multiply and cause disease. So now we're talking about the causation of disease. Now let's talk about vaccines that maybe can help us prevent disease. They induce primary and secondary immune responses under conditions that will not cause disease. Most bacterial vaccines are killed microorganisms or extracts of bacterial antigens. Most viral vaccines contain live viruses, meaning they have to be, usually refrigerated, that are weakened or attenuated. And attenuated means weakened in force or effect. That's what that means. So most viruses, because we're not going to give somebody a virus, but we have to give you a little bit of it so that you can produce the antibodies. So our viral vaccines are expressed appropriate antigens, yes, that cause only a limited and easily controlled infection. They want the body to kick in and say, hey, who are you? We don't know you. Examples of these are measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine. The varicella would be chickenpox, polio vaccine. And then the pneumococcal, there are 10 different strains that they've isolated. of a strain of S. pneumoniae. These 10 cause the most severe illnesses. There's many, many more they keep finding with pneumonia. Contains killed bacteria and extracts of bacterial antigens. And usually say if you're over 60 or very, very, very young, they want to give the pneumonia vaccine to, because again, on either ends of the spectrum, a lot of people can die from this. And then let's talk about herd immunity a little bit. What is that? It's when we try to immunize at least 85% of the population. They say if you immunize 85% of the population, it will achieve protection for the total population, because it's way more than half. And I don't know where they've derived that herd immunity needs to be 85, but that's the gold standard. If this level of immunization is not achieved, we see outbreaks of the disease. We have a very, very effective rubeola vaccine, which is measles. It was produced in 1963 and resulted in just a dramatic decrease or decline of measles. But parents have become complacent in their preschoolers, and in between, I don't know what happened in these years. I don't know if it was the hippies having folks or what, or having kids. But between 1980 and 1990, we had an outbreak in the United States with some deaths due to measles. So the government put a re-emphasis on that the child could not enter school without them. And then in 2008, the number of cases of measles increased fourfold in the United States because of resistance to immunize. So I feel very, very strongly about this. I don't understand why we listen to movie stars tell us that diseases have caused autism. That one, a very famous actress, I can't think of her name. Anyway, she said that it caused her child to be autistic. We have no idea what causes autism. The verdict is out on that. And then she had a doctor that backed her, and the doctor has since they pulled his license, because what's happened now is that a lot of people will listen to these people that they emulate that are not schooled in anything. That's what's surprising to me. And then their kids are at risk, and they put everybody else's kids and people at risk. We've actually had 2 cases in Orange County. It's been South Orange County. A lot more money down there than up here, of children dying under the age of 2 of whooping cough, when we can eradicate it. So it's food for thought. And yes, there is a reaction. Yes, sometimes kids get a fever. Yes, sometimes they feel a little bit sick. But it's because of the nature of what a vaccine is. So anyway, we can talk about this more in class if you'd like. Very, very hot topic right now. Okay, actions of antimicrobial agents, and this would be anti all the microbes we've talked about. So a lot of antibiotics. Cell wall inhibitors, we know penicillin, cephalosporins, vancomycin, bacitracin, some other ones. Cell membrane inhibitors, polymyxins, are imidazoles, which are, we use that imidazole, I think it is, imidazole. They're antifungal, antiprotozoal. Also these, some of this is found in some hypertensive medications. Inhibitors of DNA, would be our quinolones, rifampin, nitromidazole, which we use for parasitic infections, and inhibitors of protein synthesis and assembly with tetracyclines, chloramphenicol, clindamycin, and our metabolic analogs are our sulfas and our INH, or ionizide, which is used for TB. And you say, well, what's an analog? It's a structurally modified metabolite that prevents the action of a normal metabolite. So that's what an analog is. All has to do with chemistry. And then we cannot end this chapter without looking at antibiotic resistance. Develops through genetic mutations that inactivate the drug. It alters bacterial membranes so that the antibiotic is no longer taken up, and it alters the target molecule. Overuse of antibiotics leads to the destruction of normal flora, which we talked about that we need to have to survive, allowing the selective overgrowth of antibiotic-resistant strains or pathogens. So very, very important that people can't get too angry when the doctor says, no, I don't want to give you an antibiotic. it's nothing to culture, or the culture came back negative. People can't get upset because this is what's happening. Bacteria are very, very smart. Okay, I have some NCLEX questions for you. This will be your ticket to class. Please bring these answers in with you and see what you came up with for our next class. See, 1, 2, and there are 4 of them. So see what you come up with. All right. Have a great evening or afternoon or ride home in the car or wherever you are, and I will see you next time.